Boker Tov, everyone. So this week's parsha, it's a double. It's Chukat Balak. So there's a lot that happens between these two different portions. I want to focus on a particular part of this week's portion that I think may be a little strange or confusing to people. It's basically it's an episode in the story where um, the people are all struck with plagued by these biting snakes, and so they're stricken from these bites, right? And they're suffering, and so God instructs Moses to lift up a brass serpent that heals the people. It's kind of a confusing story. Why is this here? What do we have to glean from this story? So if you look at the significance of the serpent, right, we see the serpent come up multiple times in the Torah, right? The very first, of course, being in the Garden of Eden, right? The serpent was the deceiver who convinced Chava to eat from the fruit that she was forbidden to eat, right? Even though the instruction was actually given to Adam, it wasn't given to her, but he passed it on to her, and so she got confused by the serpent and she ate the fruit, and we know what happened then. They were banished from Gan Eden. But there's also other moments where serpents come into play, and I think this one feels a little closer to the story I'm talking about, and that would be the moment when Aaron's staff in front of Pharaoh turns into a serpent, and the Pharaoh's magicians do the same thing to theirs, right? But then Aaron's staff swallows up the Egyptian staffs and then turns back into a staff. A very magical moment. And then, of course, we have this moment, right? And so I think the moments that snakes come into the story are very interesting. This particular sort of brass serpent is called Nehushtan, right? Nachash means snake in Hebrew, and so it's interesting that the people is being healed by the very thing that is plaguing them, right? Because they're being plagued by these snakes, and here it is, it's a snake that's healing them, right? So it does feel like kind of a strange moment in the story. I think if we take, first of all, the fact that the serpent comes up multiple times in the story, I think we are meant to glean a message from this story. I think certainly when you consider the fact that the serpent was punished to be kind of crawling on the ground, and that they crawl, because they crawl on the ground, they can sort of sneak up, they can bite you on your ankle, like they can bite you and you might not even know, might not even see it, right? So the people weren't aware of the snakes down there, right? And then they suffered from these bites. And then the snake is waved high above them, and that's what heals them. If you take this moment and you think about the fact that there is another close connection with healing, right? If you look at the symbol that is often given from health and medicine, what does it look like? The snake, right? So sometimes it's called the caduceus, the one with two snakes, and that's supposed to be a Greek symbol for Hermes or Mercury, but he has nothing to do with healing, right? He's a messenger god in Greek mythology, right? But it's an interesting juxtaposition that we have here, because to this day, that symbol is used for health and for medicine, for healing, right? And I think you can look back to this story, you can look at this moment as a moment of healing, right? And there's the snake. So it's the very thing that is plaguing them that heals them. And I also want to point out that with regards to this story, I think it really hits home the fact that we have so many blessings in our lives. We have our health, and I think it's something that people don't always appreciate. I think does anyone know that we have a prayer that we say upon the first time we go to the bathroom in the morning, right? We say Asher Yatzar. Now, it seems like a kind of a silly thing maybe to be blessing that, but if anyone has suffered from not having that function normally, then you can appreciate how miraculous it is that everything functions as it's supposed to, right? And so it's moments where we are suffering, when we are plagued by health issues, we learn to appreciate what the value is of having good health. And it's so important in our lives, right? So this moment of healing, I think, is meant for us to recognize the blessings of health in our life, and the fact that we have this connection with the snake, and so health and medicine are a very important value. And here we have an example of that given straight in the story, in the Torah story. And to this day, that is the very symbol that is used for health and medicine. So I think we're meant to take that example. We're meant to use that in our daily lives.